That's good. That's all right. We got everybody? Good morning / afternoon. We're here joined in Sarasota by Kevin Guthrie, who's our Director of Emergency Management, head of our Florida National Guard, Jim Eifert. We also have Department of Transportation Secretary Jared Perdue. We have Sheriff Kurt Hoffman, and then we have Ed McCrane as well to talk about final stages of preparations for what is going to be a really, really significant hurricane that's going to impact the state of Florida. I think as many of you know, this storm, Hurricane Ian, is now located about 200 miles southwest of Key West. It's moving north at 12 miles per hour. It has passed or is in the process of passing Cuba. It is a Category 3 storm, which is a major hurricane, and the sustained winds are 125 miles per hour. We've been preparing different things throughout the state. We've been working with the locals. I think if you go back 48 hours and you looked at where that track was going, even though we said don't get wedded to where that eye is, you know, they had the eye of the storm arriving someplace in northern Florida in the Big Bend region. Then that track has shifted consistently eastward. As we went to bed last night, the anticipation was a landfall in the Tampa Bay area. And now the models this morning, both the European model, the American model, the ICON, all have it coming into the Sarasota region. The 11 a.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center, they revised their guidance to see it south of Tampa Bay into this region. Now, that's still not set in stone. I'd say anyone on the Gulf Coast prepare for impacts, and that was true even when it was going to make landfall places further north. We knew that there would be big storm surges as far south as Collier County. So that's what we're dealing with here, though, is continued preparations, heeding the warnings and the evacuation orders that we have from our local officials, and you're going to hear from that some additional guidance here in Sarasota. People remember Charlie was earmarked to go into the Tampa Bay. It turned south and impacted places, particularly like Charlotte County. This is a little bit different than that because it is a big storm. It is going to kick up a lot of water as it comes in, and you're going to end up with really significant storm surge. You're going to end up with really significant flood events. And this is the type of storm surge that is life-threatening. Another factor that they're forecasting now is it makes landfall somewhere, let's say it's in Sarasota County. Most of the forecasts have it slowing down to almost a crawl, and what that means is it's going to dump an inordinate amount of rain. So that could be Sarasota, could be a little bit inland. Obviously, the impact could be somewhere down this coast in different ways. There's still time for it to wobble, but I think most of the forecasts are anticipating a landfall, then a slow to almost a crawl, which is going to put a lot of saturation in the ground. So this is going to be a major water event, both in terms of the storm surge and in terms of the flooding. Evacuation orders have been issued up and down the Gulf Coast of Florida, including here in Sarasota County. The issue with this is if you are in one of these low-lying areas and you have the potential for 10, 15 feet of storm surge, that can absolutely be life-threatening. Those orders, I think, are not taken lightly. I think that that's what is the best to keep you safe. And you don't need to evacuate to another state. You don't need to evacuate hundreds of miles away. The key is to get to high ground and be in a safe structure. And I know here in Sarasota, they have shelters that are open that can do friends and family in the area. If you are going to go somewhere in other parts of the state of Florida, we're advising that you can go south and then across Alligator Alley. Southeast Florida seems to be doing better. This track may end up taking it all across I-4. It could take it in other areas. But the most important thing with the evacuation is just get to the higher ground, get to safe structure. It doesn't mean you have to be in a place where there's no storm or where you're not going to face anything, because in Florida we have structures that can deal with these hurricanes. It's hard to deal with 10 feet of water, and that's really what is underlying the evacuation notices. If you're in the barrier islands, if you're in some of the places that are susceptible to that, you are in risk. FDOT and FHP are coordinating about the flow of traffic. As of now, on 75 out of here, it's moving. We have had increased folks on the road starting yesterday, heading eastbound on Interstate 4. I think you're going to continue to see it pick up on I-75 now that the track has shifted further south into this part of the state. FDOT is prepared and FHP are prepared to open the shoulder to emergency use for evacuations. But that will happen once the sustained traffic goes under 40 miles an hour. I've not reached that point yet. And so when you do, then they will do it. The people sometimes ask, are you going to do all lanes on both sides one direction? FDOT has studied that over like 10 years, and they've determined that's not the most effective way to do it. You need people to be able to get into the storm for supplies and rescue and whatnot. So the emergency lanes, that is going to be the first step. Of course, we've suspended tolls in the affected areas, and we will keep those suspended, and we will expand that as need be. Fuel is still being provided. I know there's a lot of people out getting fuel. We've seen lines, but you still see they're going to keep providing that until it's no longer safe to do so. And then, of course, once the storm hits and passes, that's going to be a priority to clear the road so that we're able to get the fuel back to the gas stations. People should anticipate losing power. Just when you have a